Good evening. My name is Larry Coble. I am the president of 350 Chicago, an affiliate chapter of 350.org. We are a climate justice organization dedicated to fighting the climate crisis. We are a nonpartisan, not-for-profit 501c3 organization seeking to inform Chicagoans and Illinoisans and people across the country about the climate crisis. If you'd like to become involved, follow our activities, and/or volunteer with our organization, you can visit us at 350chicago.org.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being here, especially to Linda. I'll introduce her in a second. I'm so glad that we're here tonight to discuss the Climate Equitable Jobs Act programs and really one of these critical initiatives as we think about equitable access to the growing green economy. Linda, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Linda Larsen is the Associate Director of Research at the Climate Jobs Institute, where she conducts research at the intersection of climate change, clean energy transition, economic and labor market impacts, and climate justice. Her research supports the launch of the Illinois Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, CEJA, workforce programs. In her work, Linda takes a holistic approach to climate change. She's passionate about both the transition to clean energy, or to the clean energy economy, I should say, and helping communities become more resilient to the impacts of climate change. Thank you, Linda. I'm handing over to you.
Thank you, Alma. Go ahead and share my screen. It's nice to be with all of you this evening and have a chance to talk with you about some of the work that we are doing at the Climate Jobs Institute. I've titled my presentation, Growing the Clean Energy Workforce in Illinois, Growing It in an Equitable Way. We're going to be talking about some big picture, how do we do that? How do we do that in the state of Illinois? I wanted to start with just a little bit of information about where I work, the Climate Jobs Institute. This is a brand new center at the University of Illinois, and our mission is to support the state's clean energy transition through research related to the environment, clean energy, economics, workforce development, and public policy. We are established by state legislature, and we're part of a team that is supporting DCEO and launching the CEJA workforce programs. We provide applied research and evaluation and support. And a lot of what I'm going to be talking to you about today comes from this experience that we've had in supporting DCEO. I am not speaking tonight on behalf of DCEO. I'm not wearing that official CEJA hat. I'm coming more as a representative of the Climate Jobs Institute, where I do big picture research on the clean energy transition. So what are we going to be talking about today? Illinois needs to grow the clean energy workforce to get to a clean energy future. We set big, ambitious goals, and then to get there, we need to be able to build the infrastructure to get to a net zero energy future. Over the last 3 or 4 years that I've been really heavily involved in doing clean energy workforce research, I've talked to many, many people about clean energy workforce needs. And I get a lot of comments and questions and concerns. Here on the screen are a few of them. The CEJA workforce programs, there's a lot of funding right now for clean energy jobs. People wonder if there's enough job openings for the people that we're training. People wonder if we're going to be able to grow the clean energy workforce fast enough to meet our clean energy transition goals. There's a lot of employers that I talk to that say we need a lot of workers and we need them now. There's a lot of concern among certain communities that the benefits of good paying clean energy jobs go to people who need them, that they're distributed in an equitable way. And then we also want to be thinking not just about the jobs that we need now, but the jobs that we need in the future. So what do those future projections look like? So my agenda today is going to cover 4 general questions about these clean energy workforce needs. How many new clean energy jobs will we need to achieve our energy transition goals? Where are we now in terms of clean energy jobs? What kinds of clean energy jobs are needed? Are these quality jobs with good pay? And then what can people do? And I'm thinking about all of you, clean energy advocates. What can people do to help grow the clean energy workforce in their regions or in the state? And what are some good resources and tools? Honestly, this is an evolving research topic. There's not a lot of great research on it. What I'm going to be leaning on today are a few key reports produced by the Department of Energy, U.S. Department of Energy, the U.S. Energy and Employment Report, and then a few reports that have been funded by DCEO to support the state's clean energy transition. And there's a lot of need for more good research in this area. I'll say that this is an evolving research need. And one of the reasons why the Climate Jobs Institute was founded was to fill some of the gaps in research needs around the clean energy transition. So first question, how many new clean energy jobs will Illinois need to reach our clean energy transition goals? I have a few test your knowledge questions throughout. Obviously, you can't shout out your answers, but just think, what is the largest element of Illinois' electric grid mix? Give you a minute to think about it. Rich is trying to give an answer. C. That's right. Nuclear by far. Nuclear is that big purple half of the pie. Illinois is one of the biggest nuclear states in the country. Over 50% of our electric grid mix comes from nuclear. I don't see that going away anytime soon. We're also a pretty big coal state. You can see nearly a quarter of our energy comes from coal. The next biggest is wind, is natural gas, and then wind is that teal piece of the pie that's kind of poking out. Solar, we have actually very little solar compared to a lot of other states. 1.5%. This is in 2022. The numbers have changed a little bit, but in 2022, solar made up only 1.5% of our electric grid mix. So we have a long ways to go. Where we want to be, we want to eliminate that the black section, and we want to eliminate that natural gas, that purple section, and replace those sources with renewable energy. So you can see there's a lot of renewable energy that we're going to need to produce to be able to meet the needs of our grid. Not only that, we are trying to electrify sectors of our economy, electrify buildings, move away from natural gas furnaces in our homes and in our buildings, electrify the industrial sector, and then electrify transportation, so electric vehicles. All of this electrification is going to add to the grid. So we're going to need to be able to generate even more power. So we're going to need even more electricity and generated through even more renewables to electrify these different sectors. Given that, we're going to need to modernize our grid. Solar and wind aren't available all the time. How do we make sure that we can keep the lights on? We need to be able to have some energy storage. I don't see our nuclear going away. It's a good steady source. Electrification of buildings, transportation, and industry are going to put extra strain on the grid. So one of the things that we need to really prioritize is reducing energy consumption, energy efficiency, and then increasing capacity of the electric grid. Okay, here's another test your knowledge question. To reach Illinois' 100% carbon-free power goal, about how many new clean energy jobs are needed over the next 25 years? The best estimates that we have come from the Illinois Clean Energy Workforce Commission. We're going to need to substantially increase electric generation capacity to reach clean energy goals. electric generation losses from fossil fuel, from coal, from natural gas. Renewable energy is going to need to make up for those losses. And they anticipate with a high electrification scenario, we're going to need up to 120,000 new jobs just over the next 10 years, even, and then 100,000 new jobs in a mid-case scenario. Jobs will drop as construction phase ends, but permanent employment levels will remain much higher than the base year. So this is a graph from the report where you can see a substantial spike. If we're going to reach our clean energy goals, we're going to need a substantial spike right now, right away, in the construction and supply chain sectors in particular. And then you can see them tapering off a little bit. A lot of the construction phase jobs will taper off a bit. Typically, renewable energy are not as high. It's not as many jobs in the maintenance and operations phase of jobs. It's not all good news. We're going to expect in Illinois job losses from plant and coal mine closures. And there's several coal mines that are, and coal mines and coal plants, natural gas plants that are scheduled to be closed or reduce operations over the next few years. So you can see here that we're going to, these are the coal mines and plants that are scattered throughout Illinois. And we're going to see some losses, but those losses are going to be concentrated in just a few counties. So one of the things that we want to think about in a clean energy transition is how can we support these counties that are going to lose substantial numbers of jobs? How can we help them transition to clean energy jobs? But I also want to emphasize here that we're talking about a few thousand job losses, and we're talking about 100,000 job gains. So overall, tremendous amount of jobs that are going to be gained through the clean energy transition, and a few thousand that are going to be lost, concentrated in some key communities, particularly in rural areas. And we'll want to pay close attention to those communities where the job losses are going to be concentrated. How many clean energy jobs are in Illinois currently? If this is where we need to be, where are we now? So here's another test your knowledge question. Which clean energy sector employs the most people in Illinois? By far, the largest clean energy sector is energy efficiency. 84,000 jobs are in energy efficiency. Renewable energy, you see right here, we're at about 18,000. We need to add another 100,000 to that, mostly in that renewable energy sector, although not exclusively. We'll still need to add some more energy efficiency jobs, some clean energy transportation, grid and storage jobs as well. But we need to significantly boost the renewable energy sector. So just to give you an overall sense of the kinds of energy efficiency jobs that there are out there, these are jobs in Energy Star and efficient lighting. Traditional HVAC and high efficiency HVAC make up the majority of clean energy jobs. Those are the green and red sections over there. And then you've got some weatherization, some advanced materials and insulation, things like that. With renewable energy, many people don't realize we have more wind jobs than solar jobs. So we have over 9,000 wind energy jobs, a little over 6,500 solar energy jobs, and then a few in geothermal, bioenergy, and low-impact hydroelectric. Clean energy transportation. We have a few thousand jobs in hybrid electric vehicles, plug-in electric vehicles. Electric vehicles will expect to see this change and evolve in the future. And then we have, again, a few thousand grid and storage jobs. But again, if you look back at these numbers, most of those clean energy jobs right now are concentrated in energy efficiency with renewable energy following. Briefly, what kinds of jobs are in the clean energy? What kind of jobs are we talking about? CEJA, the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, they define clean energy jobs as jobs in solar, wind, electric vehicles, green hydrogen, energy efficiency. They include healthy building materials in the definition, energy storage, as well as industries achieving emission reductions. And they say that within those industries, clean energy jobs are those that manufacture, develop, build, install, maintain, or provide ancillary services in those industries. These are also jobs that provide administrative, sales, and other support functions in those industries. And one of the challenges of categorizing clean energy jobs is that, a clean energy job could be an accountant, or it could be a carpenter, or it could be an electrician, or it could be a salesperson. And those aren't always, when you're measuring jobs, when the Department of Labor is counting jobs, they might not classify those jobs as clean energy jobs. So it's a little hard to get data in this industry. The highest percentage of clean energy jobs is in which industry? Here's another test your knowledge question. Here's what the U.S. Energy Employment Jobs Report shows, that the 41%, the largest chunk here, is in the construction industry, followed by professional services at almost 26% and manufacturing at 19%. You have other trade, other services, utilities, agriculture, and forestry making up smaller amounts of the clean energy workforce. So when we talk about growing the clean energy workforce, we are talking about a lot of construction jobs, especially given that we need to increase renewable energy generation. We need people to install those solar panels, to get the wind turbines up. We also need people to reduce energy consumption through energy efficiency services and professional services, salespeople who are selling solar, the behind the scenes business people are helping these businesses run. We need more of those as well. Management, jobs like that. Overall, what the data shows us is that clean energy jobs typically have higher wages and unionization rates. This is just a very small snapshot. And again, it's the data is a little bit old. The hourly wages have gone up. But you can see in general that jobs in solar, wind, energy efficiency, grid modernization, clean vehicles are above the median, the national median. These are also often union jobs, so jobs with good benefits and quality jobs. So one of the things that CEJA is trying to do is make sure that the kind of jobs we prepare people for are not temporary, that they are good jobs where people can advance in their careers and obtain a living wage. There are some job quality issues that we do have to watch out for. Construction installation jobs in clean energy, often there's travel barriers. A lot of the clean energy infrastructure projects are in rural areas, and yet a lot of our training, the state's training programs are going to focus on more urban areas. There's often flexible work schedules or more work being done in the summer months when the weather's nice. Physical work environments, part-time or temporary jobs are still common, especially in the solar industry, and some of the jobs are still relatively low pay. So one of the things that Illinois is trying to do is make sure that we set some labor standards and require employers to pay workers living wages. We also want to work when we're growing the clean energy workforce. We want to help people advance, provide opportunities for them to cross over into different clean energy sectors. This is important for a clean energy infrastructure or clean energy workforce ecosystem that may evolve over the next few years as construction needs shift. We want people to be able to advance in their careers, not just get an entry-level job and stay there. And then finally, will jobs be available once the construction phase of these projects are over in 10, 20, 30 years? Some things to consider. The third section that I wanted to address in my presentation here today is how state and federal clean energy investments are helping to grow the clean energy workforce in Illinois. This is where I'm going to talk a little bit about my work at CEJA. So here's another test your knowledge. This one's an easy one. What major pieces of state and federal legislation are spurring clean energy job growth? Got 4 options here. The answer, of course, is all of the above. CEJA, I'll just provide a very brief overview of CEJA. I know all of you are invested in clean energy in Illinois and likely are pretty familiar with this legislation. I'll be focusing a little bit on the $82 million a year investment in workforce development and contractor development, so helping to grow businesses and train up the workforce. But CEJA also encompasses a lot of other programs and policies. There's programs for environmental justice, communities. There's plans for funding solar and wind. There's expanded funding for energy efficiency programming. There's plans to close fossil fuel plants and mines. There's rebates for electric vehicles and EV infrastructure. These are, here I've listed the different CEJA programs that are involved in growing the clean energy workforce and growing clean energy businesses. You can see here, this is $82 million. Sorry, it's not just $82. It's $82 million in annual investment. Just to provide context, this is a substantial chunk of the annual workforce funding that the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity administers. They've had to hire a complete new division to run these programs and a large staff. There's 5 workforce programs. The CEJA workforce hubs are the ones that people talk about the most, but there's also a pre-apprenticeship program. There's a program specifically for returning residents that will be provided in Illinois prisons. There's a navigator program to try to help people get interested and involved in clean energy careers. And then the Future Energy Jobs Act solar training programs were reassigned to DCEO in CEJA, so I kind of count them as part of CEJA now. The CEJA contractor program, so CEJA recognizes that it's not just enough to train workers, you have to have businesses that are able to hire them and grow. So there's programs to help provide funding and support, technical assistance to help businesses, clean energy businesses grow. There's a contractor incubator, an accelerator, and a jobs and environmental justice grant program that provides seed funding for businesses in developing clean energy projects. CEJA centers equity, so it's really it really focuses on a just transition to a clean energy economy, recognizing that some communities and groups have been disproportionately impacted by pollution, by incarceration, by lack of educational and job opportunities, by economic disinvestment. At the same time, some communities and groups of people have historically benefited more from clean energy investments and job opportunities. So the CEJA workforce programs aim to ensure that the benefits of clean energy investments and good paying clean energy jobs are distributed equitably. Just to note, there are some when you look at the existing clean energy workforce in Illinois, there are some significant disparities. There's a gender disparity with significant male workforce, far fewer females involved in the clean energy industry. And when you look at race and ethnicity, Black and African American workers are significantly underrepresented in the workforce. So CEJA tries to address some of these disparities. CEJA funding and programs prioritize placement in the training and in the contractor programs for certain communities and groups of people. These are environmental justice communities or restore, reinvested, renew communities, and other populations that are prioritized are formerly incarcerated people, people with other barriers to employment, foster care alumni, and displaced energy workers. So what does this look like? It looks like, the programs will be recruiting from these communities, from these groups of people. Placements will be prioritized for these groups and these communities. And there's a significant barrier reduction fund that can be used to reduce barriers to participation and completion in the programs. So, this is where I'm taking off my CEJA hat a little bit. Where are the CEJA programs currently? What CEJA programs are currently funded and operating? At this point, so CEJA was passed in 2021. At this point, the only programs that are currently operating among the CEJA workforce programs and the contractor programs specifically are the CEJA solar training programs. There are other parts of CEJA that are up and running and have been for some time, but at least the workforce and contractor programs that DCEO is administering, it's been a little slow. So a lot of the programs are still, some of the CEJA programs are in final grant negotiations. They're expected to be announced soon. So you should see these green ones here. The Climate Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grantees will be announced soon. CEJA Workforce Hubs, about half of the grantees have been selected, or haven't been selected, but have been, they are in grantee negotiations and they're expected to be announced soon. Likewise, the Energy Transition Program, and then a few of the Jobs and Environmental Justice grants are in the works. So there has been a lot of movement in the last few months in trying to get programs launched. And then there's a lot of programs. All of these green ones here are still in review. You have some applications trickling in. There's some that are in the early negotiation phase, and then some programs are still open and accepting applications. One of the things that we've found, well, I get asked this all the time, why is it taking so long to implement these workforce programs? And I have three general answers. One is that implementing programs is very hard work. When we think about policy is hard to get past. I think it's even harder to implement it. So these programs are lots of new programs, lots of new staff that have to be onboarded. And there's a lot of lack of capacity of state agencies to run these programs. And this is a general countrywide problem. The state agencies are being asked to administer clean energy programs, and they often do not have the capacity to do that. There's also a lack of capacity of applicants and communities. So one of the things that the CEJA programs have found is that, they have these 13 hubs, but it's been hard to get organizations to apply for funding to deliver these programs. So there needs to be some capacity building on all fronts. Moving to the federal funding, there's two major pieces of legislation that are helping to spur clean energy job growth. The Federal Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. These two major pieces of legislation include funding for clean energy tax credits, manufacturing investments, clean vehicle provisions, funding to modernize the power grid, funding for weatherization and energy efficiency, and funding for clean energy development and technologies, among many other things. And if you haven't already, I would encourage you to go to invest.gov. There's a nice map. I've taken a few screenshots here, but if you go into the map, you can see, you can click on Illinois and you can see where the Inflation Reduction Act funding is going. And in terms of private and public investments, so you can see here that the Inflation Reduction Act has spurred funding in the clean energy manufacturing sector. We've got some private companies that have announced investments in electric vehicles and batteries, as well as clean energy manufacturing. And this is bringing jobs to Illinois. You can see here the jobs listed at Goshen, which is a battery facility, 2.6 K jobs. There's also these federal investments are leading to private investments in clean energy, clean power. There's large scale solar and wind projects planned throughout the state. A lot of these large utility scale renewable energy projects are in rural areas, not necessarily close to the CEJA workforce hubs where people are being trained. And then there's a lot of public infrastructure funding, 11.1 billion in transportation investments, including electric school and transit buses, EV charging stations, and more. There's funding for rebates to accelerate clean energy, including home energy rebates. There's a lot of money as well to make communities more resilient to climate change. So federal IRA funding, similar to CEJA funding, targets disadvantaged communities. The Justice 40 initiative, I think, is one of the most exciting equity initiatives that I've seen in a long time. It sets targets that 40% of overall benefits of all of these programs must flow to disadvantaged communities that are marginalized by underinvestment and overburdened by pollution. You can see here, there's a little screening tool where you can see where the communities are. When organizations or cities or local governments apply for IRA funding, they have to submit community benefits plans. And this is another way to ensure equitable workforce development plans. These plans require them to set targets, set goals to engage communities on labor, to invest in workers through quality jobs, to advance diversity, equity, inclusion through recruitment, and to make sure that the benefits go to these communities. So in order to get funding, they have to lay out plans to grow the workforce in an equitable way. So I think, in considering all of these investments, there's a lot of room for hope right now. There's a lot of good things going on. There's a lot of money pouring into these clean energy investments on the state and federal level. The state is well positioned to take advantage of federal funding because we do have these programs that are going to help grow the clean energy workforce. And yet it's kind of slow. It feels like, we've been spinning our wheels a little bit. We want to get the workforce programs moving, but it's hard to get them implemented. So My last section that I wanted to talk about before we move into question answers is how can people help grow the clean energy workforce in their regions? What tools and resources are available? This is general. I'm actually not super aware of what all of you individually do related to clean energy, but this is thinking about how you as a community member might be able to engage in your region to support the clean energy workforce. First, engage state and local leaders. I think organizations like yours, like 350 Chicago, are good at this. Encourage and offer support to state agencies like DCEO to build capacity to administer funding and programs. Whenever I talk to university students, I encourage them to apply for jobs at state agencies. I think there's a lot of need there to support, to build capacity at state, federal, and local agencies. Encourage public-private partnerships. So state agencies may not have capacity on their own to administer these programs, but can they partner with others to do so? I do believe it's really important to demand transparency and accountability. What are you doing with the funds? But also ask how you can help. And then contact your local leaders and legislators. Ask them how they are growing the clean energy workforce in their regions. One of the things that CEJA administrators have tried to do recently is engage more with the legislators, saying, hey, you passed CEJA. We're having a hard time getting people to apply for funding here. Engage your constituents and help us find people to run these programs, find organizations to run these programs. And then you can engage your community and region, encourage businesses, organizations in your region to apply for CEJA funding. If you know of someone, if you know of organizations that offer workforce training or community colleges that have similar types of programs, let them know that these opportunities are there, network with them. Lots of communities and people need help applying for funding or even knowing that opportunities exist. If we're going to distribute these opportunities equitably, we need to make people aware and we need to support them in applying for funding and even in managing the grants. If you haven't applied for a $1 million grant before to run a workforce program, it's a lot of work. And those grant writers really do an important service in helping organizations navigate these challenging processes of applying for funding. Another way you can help is to raise awareness of clean energy careers. Encourage young people to join the clean energy workforce, and there's so many different kinds of clean energy jobs out there. This can be a great opportunity to engage local schools in your region. And then finally, stay informed. Learn about CEJA and the opportunities that are coming to your community. And I'll talk a little bit about how you can do that. If you are interested in learning more or engaging in CEJA's in the CEJA workforce programs, CEJA has a website with updates and program status. I'll share these slides with you so you can get some of the links if you're interested, but this would be a good place to go to learn a little bit more about those programs and also how you can get involved. There's a place where you can sign up for updates and find out about funding opportunities that are coming out. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about the clean energy workforce needs, you can take a look at some of the reports that the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity has funded. Some of those, this work that we've helped at the Climate Jobs Institute has helped produce. And then finally, I've linked a few other helpful sources of information. The U.S. Energy and Employment Report. There's a fantastic U.S. Department of Energy set of clean energy career maps that, if you're trying to inspire people to go into clean energy careers, it can give you a good sense of the kind of careers that are out there at every level and in all of these different sectors. And then again, the White House Investing in America would be a good way to find out, hey, where's that money going in our state? What investments are we taking advantage of? And is my community taking advantage of that funding?